Now friends, welcome back to another episode of Generation Tech. My name is Alan. So a few episodes ago, we went over the technical details of the Normandy SR2 and the Millennium Falcon. You guys voted on who would win in a battle, and today we're going to show you that battle. Let's just set a few ground rules. Both ships have a primary objective to destroy one another. That means no Han Solo can't immediately escape to hyperspace, even though that is a very likely scenario. Also, the Normandy SR2 will have all of its upgrades, including the Thanix cannon, and the Millennium Falcon will have Luke Skywalker on board. Alright, let's start the battle. There have been rumors, strange rumors of an extremely advanced ship sighted in both Asari and Turian space. Smaller than a Corvette-class ship, the alien vessel had so far evaded any attempt of interception and capture. It had even been spotted near the Citadel, where it flew circles around the Asari dreadnought Destiny Ascension. Observers of that incident reported the Ascension's point defense weapons had no effect on the saucer-shaped ship. It had even taken a hit from her main mass driver, without much struggle. And that was just 20 minutes ago. Its last known escape vector showed that the ship was going towards Sol System, deep in System Alliance territory. The SSV Normandy SR2 had been finishing a PR tour back on Earth, and was redirected to intercept the mysterious ship and eliminate it if necessary. The System Alliance would not tolerate any hostile vessels, especially this close to its home world. Upon receiving the mission briefing from the Council, Commander Shepard called the crew back from shore leave immediately. Not knowing the FTL capabilities of this unknown ship, Shepard wanted to get the Normandy into orbit as soon as possible so they could get a jump on the aliens. The ship was in the air and heading out of Earth's orbit within the hour. Once it reached the stable orbit, Shepard commanded Joker to activate the Normandy stealth system and shut down all known essential systems. The Normandy could drift in this mode for several days if need be, but just 2 hours after they went silent, the unidentified ship appeared. Surprisingly, it bypassed the heavily guarded Chiron mass relay in the outer system. It had instead appeared less than 1 million miles away from Earth, which was impossible. It would take several years without a mass relay to cover the distance between the Citadel and Earth. Stranger yet, the Normandy's sensors picked up an odd radiation signal that was very different from the ones created by their own mass effect fields. The aliens clearly had a better way of achieving FTL. Han and Chewie were arguing as usual once they emerged from hyperspace. For the past week, they've been jumping from system to system, trying to avoid the extremely hostile alien forces of this new galaxy. This was after they accidentally got sucked into a wormhole. Han blamed Chewie, and Chewie blamed Han, but to be honest, they had both been sleeping when the space anomaly pulled them out of hyperspace and into another galaxy. Or at least that's where Luke said they were. But of course, he was just using his space magic. The truth was, no one knew what the hell was going on, and they needed to land somewhere so they could regroup and figure out how to get home. Plus, someone needed to take the Wookiee out for a walk. It wasn't a good idea to confine a Wookiee inside a ship for more than a few days. There was the smell and shedding, and also their ability to rip people's arms off was rather disconcerting. But when they saw the tiny blue pearl of a planet hanging out there in front of them, they stopped arguing. The planet was a dead ringer for Alderaan. Han knew it wasn't possible. He'd seen Leia's world blasted into pieces. He had flown right through the debris field. But then a roar from Chewie brought his eyes to the sensors. Ahead of them was a frigate-sized ship in orbit. The majority of its systems were off, but the Millennium Falcon's powerful military-grade electrophotoreceptors were easily able to distinguish the shape of a ship against the planet. Oddly enough, it seemed like the ship was running cold. Perhaps it had been abandoned. But Han wanted to play it safe and turned on the signal jammers immediately. He didn't want the giant fleet at the edge of the system to be notified of their presence. Suddenly, the idle ship came alive with activity and raced towards the Falcon. Chewie quickly took the helm and Han disappeared into the Falcon's upper turret. Luke was already seated in the bottom turret. A split second after the shield was raised, a bright white light emerged out of the alien ship. The stream of superheated metal hit the Falcon but immediately twisted out of the line of fire. Joker and Garrus tried their best to maintain the beam on target, but the Falcon was too quick and small. It recovered from the attack and started heading towards the Normandy. Despite only being hit by a glancing blow, the Falcon's shields were down to 50%. Whatever they had just been hit with was much deadlier than the kinetic weapons they had encountered before. Approaching the moon now, the Falcon was getting closer to the Normandy, which continued firing with its Thanix cannon. But now aware of the weapon's flight path, Chewie was easily able to dodge the attack at this range, and the Falcon began returning fire with its own turbo lasers. The Normandy was rocked with a steady stream of plasma melting away layers of ablative armor. Their kinetic shields were unable to deflect the energy weapons. In some areas of the ship, only the original armor was left. One more pass by the Falcon, and the Normandy would be venting oxygen and personnel into space. Shepard quickly ordered Officer Williams to load up 2 Kodiak shuttles with explosives and spare parts. They needed to buy themselves some time for reinforcements. So far, it seemed like the alien ship was jamming their communications to the Charon relay fleet. The saucer-shaped ship was closing in for another strafing run, careful to avoid the front of the ship where the Thanix cannon was located. The Guardian point defense lasers had no effect during the last pass, so Shepard had Joker prepare the disruptor torpedoes. If they got close enough, maybe they could hit the enemy with a volley. Chewie launched the proton torpedo at the side of the Normandy, but quickly lasers erupted from its surface and intercepted the projectile, cutting it into pieces. The Normandy fired again, this time sending a cloud of torpedoes of their own at the Falcon, forcing Chewie to break off their attack before their own turbo lasers had managed to hit their target. Officer Williams had finished preparing both Kodiaks for their special mission, and as the Falcon turned away for another attack run, Shepard had Edie take command of both shuttles and launched them into space, where they maintained position in the shadow of the Normandy. Chewie turned the ship around and launched 2 proton torpedoes ahead of their strafing attack. Again, the Normandy point defense lasers destroyed both torpedoes, but one managed to get close enough to rock the Normandy. Both Han and Luke began firing their turbo lasers forward. This time, instead of being greeted by a cloud of torpedoes, 2 small ships came out from beneath the Normandy directly at the Falcon. Both immediately exploded within a few miles of the Falcon, sending a huge debris cloud towards the ship. Bracing for multiple impacts, the Falcons plowed through the field, abruptly losing its shields and a sensor dish. The Normandy launched its own counterattack now with both its point defense weapons and another salvo of disruptor torpedoes. Once again, the torpedoes missed their mark, but the stream of lasers from the Guardian system stitched lines across the Falcons, disabling Luke's turret. But the Normandy's crew didn't have time to celebrate. Their ship had also been perforated by the Falcon's turbo lasers, and now there were several hull breaches midship. And their kinetic shields were now down to 10% after absorbing the explosions of the proton torpedoes and both Kodiaks. The Falcon was wounded, but its backup shield generators picked up immediately, and Chewie reinforced the forward deflector shield for another pass. Most of the damage had been cosmetic, but now they only had 1 turret to attack the Normandy with. On Chewie's next pass, he once again launched 2 proton torpedoes. They were intercepted and detonated prematurely. But the shockwaves hit the Normandy hard and started fires in engineering. Damage to the cooling system was now forcing the Normandy to function at half power, but luckily their comms had come back on once the Millennium Falcon lost their communications array. The Normandy quickly contacted the fleet near the Charon relay along with Earth-based fighters. With the shields recharging rapidly, Chewie noticed the inbound fighters coming to assist the Normandy. The battle needed to end quickly. He took the Falcon in a tight loop around the larger ship, exposing only the top cannon. The Falcon's quad turbo laser traded blows with the Guardian system. After 2 full rotations, the Falcon's shields began to fail. But then, an explosion erupted towards the stern of the Normandy, which set off a chain reaction. The Tantalus drive had overheated, and the Normandy began to disintegrate. Out of the 1,904 people who voted on who would win this battle, 1,025 selected the Falcon, 732 selected the Normandy SR2, and 147 said it would be a draw. The Normandy SR2 was the pride of the Systems Alliance fleet. It was designed for stealth and combat, and it was staffed by some of the most talented people in the galaxy. But humanity in this universe has been a spacefaring species for a little over 200 years. In contrast, space travel in Star Wars was tens of thousands of years old, and their technology was just in another class from the Mass Effect universe. For a more thorough breakdown of both ships' technical capabilities, check out our last video by clicking here. And guys, it's okay to fanboy, I get it, I played all 4 Mass Effect games to completion, but please do remember that the people in the comments are people, so be kind to each other, and if you do have any anger, direct it at Ben. Well, I hope you enjoyed today's episode. Don't forget to subscribe and hit that notification button so you don't miss out on the rest of our awesome content. And a special thanks to all you Patreon supporters out there. If you guys were in my crew when I was Commander Shepard, I would upgrade the Normandy SR2 completely so none of you would die in the assault on the Collector base. Thanks for joining us today. If you're watching this, you are Generation Tech.